Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Rosado, and I work at the Connecticut State Department of Education in our performance office. And I am really excited to welcome you to the first webinar in the Connecticut State Department of Education's Learning at a Distance series. This webinar series showcases how Connecticut schools and districts have implemented teaching and learning at a distance. On behalf of the Connecticut State Department of Education, I want to thank you for attending this webinar and learning from your peers. This is uncharted territory, and we need to learn from each other on what is working for our students as they learn from home. The staff at the Connecticut State Department of Education is here to support you. I hope you are doing well and you and your family continue to be well. Today's webinar focuses on the experiences of two districts, Naugatuck and Plainville, as they navigate learning at a distance. Just a few reminders before I introduce our presenters. I just want to let you all know that you're going to be in listen-only mode for the entirety of this webinar. However, we do welcome questions that you have. Please use the question and answer feature in your webinar controls to ask questions. Our presenters will take time at the end of their sessions to answer any questions you have. And as a reminder, this session is being recorded and it will be posted to the Connecticut State Department of Education website on our COVID-19 page. Okay, great. Our presenters today are Caroline Messenger, Director of Curriculum at Naugatuck Public Schools, and Steve LePage, Superintendent of Schools for Plainville Community Schools. We're going to start it off with Caroline, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. So I hope everyone is well and healthy during this time. I'm going to share with you what Naugatuck has put into place in a relatively short period of time, as I'm sure everyone is familiar. And I'm going to start with yeah, I can't, there we go. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of research. So the research, when we first knew or had a clue that we were going into this sort of distance learning, I call it emergency remote learning. The research is not necessarily happy news for all students, in that some students may actually do well in person, but on average, according to research, students tend to do worse. But just because of that doesn't mean we don't try, and doesn't mean we don't seek to engage everyone. So we chose to set the research to the side a little bit and focus on what we were going to do for our children. There we go. So one of the first steps we took in Naugatuck was to sit down as a leadership team and really figure out what do we value and what do we believe, and what's going to guide our decision making through this process. Because there's so much that's unknown. There's a lot of opportunity for us to make decisions that may or may not be in our best interest. And we didn't want to get distracted by shiny objects or newfangled technology. So what was going to guide the decisions that we were going to make as a team and guide our plan. So one was personal relationships, and that's number one for a reason. Learning is a social act, and so we have to somehow maintain the social nature of learning in order to be effective. So we want our relationships to remain strong. We want our parent partnerships to remain strong. And so that was number one. Number two was health, wellness, and safety. Any decisions that we make have to be in the best interests of our community's health and our children's health. And then access and opportunity for all. And so this proved to be a challenge for us, because we don't have every child online. We do have a computer for every child, but we immediately started partnering with our local cable company, Comcast, with T-Mobile, with AT&T, to get Wi-Fi service to every family. So one of the things Comcast did when we contacted them was to open up all of their hotspots password free. So if you live near a hotspot and you can see it on your Wi-Fi list, you can access it free of charge. Comcast also turned on any subscribers who were shut off for non-payment so that the households could access the internet. They offered $10 a month internet to families who qualified for their plan. AT&T also offered $10 and $5 plans for our families. And we worked with T-Mobile to get hotspots in our hands that we could then distribute to anyone who needed them. So at this point, we have a lot of our students online. There's very few students that we're trying to still connect with. And a lot of it has to do with those partnerships that we made right away. There we go. So the other thing that we did immediately was to decide on platforms and tools, because we have families with multiple children in our district, and we didn't want families to have to learn and navigate different platforms because of teacher preference or because someone had been using something for a long time. So we immediately instituted that we will be using the Google Suite. It's familiar to our teachers. We are a Google school district. So we use Google Classroom, Google Meet, Google Hangouts, and all of this suite of products to conduct our learning. For our online tools, it's very simple. There are 3 that we mandated across the district. Screencastify is our tool for recording video, and we use Flipgrid to do video, and Edulastic to do assessment. And the reason why we picked these 3 was that they very easily and seamlessly integrate with Google Classroom. So it's a very quick and easy step to get these products into our classroom. And I'm going to show you some Flipgrids. I have permission from parents to show off some of what our kids are doing. And then we use the online programs that we subscribe to. So familiarity is key. We didn't add anything new. We went with our Pearson online math program and social studies program. We went with Learning A to Z, and we went with Learning Ally, which is a wonderful little company that does audiobooks, human-read audiobooks, so that our kids had access to the same materials from home. And again, those all post directly to the Google Classroom, so everything is seamless. So trying to make things as easy and as familiar as possible to our children. So planning and expectations. So this is going to be a little bit of a problem because I can't click my links. So I don't know how we're going to solve that, Michelle. So I can show off some of the stuff that we have here. We have our distance learning plan, which is posted on our website for anyone to access and read. And we're going to...
Caroline, if you want to bear with me for a second, I can open up the other version that has the live links in it.
Okay, perfect.
I had to convert it to a different file when I put them all together. So just bear with me, everyone, as well, because I'm going to stop sharing and share a different screen.
Okay. So we developed our distance learning plan, which we did collaboratively with our principals. So we asked them to come up with what would the first 3 weeks of learning look like. And from there, we were able to put together our distance learning plan, and really it's pretty comprehensive. We developed with our unions a memo around how we would conduct business in our district or on district learning. So we have that memo available as well. And we also have a pretty intense professional learning website. And a distance learning website. So the professional learning website is for our teachers. I keep it stocked with videos on all of the tools that we're asking teachers to use. I also have a page that we call Shared, and I roam in and out of Google Classrooms and pull really interesting and unique assignments, videos, things that teachers have done that's worth sharing with the general population, so that all of our teachers have access to collaborate with teachers they may have never collaborated with before, and see what other teachers are doing and how they're managing their Google Classrooms. So what we said to our teachers in our memo was that you will post a daily video so your students can see you every day. You know, I go to work every day and I still sometimes have to ask what day it is. So having that daily video, being able to communicate with your children, let them see you every day, I think is a really important step. So if you can click on the distance learning plan for a minute. Just click the blue, Michelle. There you go. So if you scroll down, what you'll notice in our table of contents is the way that we've organized the document.
Sorry, it's just, oh, there. Of course, now it went like a million pages. I'm so sorry. Okay, now I'm controlling it better. Where did you want to be?
Just at the table of contents.
Okay.
There you go. So we have our guiding principles for distance learning, initiating the distance learning plan. So what's it going to take to put this into action? What's the implementation of it? So how do we close down our school buildings? What are the expectations for distance learning? How do our roles shift as teachers, as custodians, as nurses, as cafeteria workers? So we address how those roles shift in a emergency remote learning situation. What is the plan for the first 3 weeks? You know, how do we, you know, what does week 1 look like? What does week 2 look like? Our schools develop school-based teams with the social worker, the counselor, the principal, a couple other people on that team, and their job was simply outreach. So whomever the teacher was reporting as not being seen in the classroom, not logging in, not completing assignments, that school-based team would work on outreach. So if it was a connection issue, that school-based team worked with them and with our partners to get them online. We look at scheduling, teaching and learning online, staying connected, and then what happens when we return to school. So this document is public on our website and is available to everyone. Can you go back? Thanks. So if you go to the professional learning website, I can show you that really quickly. Well, okay, we'll show you the memo now. This is just the memo that we sent out. This too is readily available to all of our teachers about, you know, what are the supports that are going to be into place and what are our expectations for our teachers and what in what an online learning environment looks like, classroom looks like. And then our professional learning website, which will show you at the top, you can see all the different categories. So if you have questions on Google Classroom, Google Hangout, Google Meet, there's all kinds of videos and documents to help you with that. If you scroll down, you'll see the shared page, and if you click the picture of our little one reading, it'll bring you to a page that's publicly accessible. So if you scroll down, you'll be able to access some of the exemplars that we've highlighted. I'm going to show you a few today, but we have the 4th grade narrative writing mini lesson, brilliant lesson that takes 2.5 minutes and has a clear teaching point. You know, if you scroll down even further, you'll see videos and slides. We have SEL lessons, an exemplar morning meeting from one of our 3rd grade classrooms. So this is all publicly accessible as well. So you can go to the next slide. So one of the things that was really important to us too is that less is more, right? Parents are working from home, children are working from home. There's a lot of stress on families. Some parents may not be working, some families may have lost an income. There's all kinds of scenarios for our children, and it's really, you know, looking at some of the principles of trauma-informed instruction during this time, because we're trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for children in a really abnormal environment. So we look at less as more. We can't expect that our kids are going to handle 6 hours of work a day. And so one of our tenets was go gently and keep the learning moving forward. You know, it's not, we need to keep teaching our children, but we need to go gently with that. So we can't afford to halt progress, but we can afford to be empathetic and to really look at, of all this learning, what is that one concept, that one principle that we really need them to know, and then how do we work with them on that concept moving forward. So we do have a website for families, and the purpose of that website, the distance learning website, is to maintain easy access to programs. It's really not, you know, that's more of in case Google Classroom isn't working for you, because everything is linked through Google Classroom. So there's really no reason to go outside of your Google Classroom to access anything. But the website does provide information for our families, and that's also publicly available on Naugatuck's site. So there's a lot more links, Michelle. Are you able?
Yeah, I'm gonna just okay, hold on, bear with me. All right, here we go. Okay, what do you want me to do?
So let's start with kindergarten.
All right.
So you can take a look. Let's take a look at this kindergarten learning plan. And this, one of the things that distance learning has done, or this emergency remote learning has done, is it's really spawned amazing collaboration among our grade level teachers. So this is kindergarten with our 3 kindergarten teachers at Andrew Elementary School working together. So if we scroll through the slide, you'll see slide number 2 is the a video that I created. They used my video on how to turn in work in Google Classroom. So, you know, just a little simple 30-second video, but letting the kids know how they can turn in their work. And then if you go to the next slide, they give you an introduction of what they're going to do in math. So when you see Gigi, that's our subscription to ST Math. It's a non-language based program, so there's no words, no reading at all in the program for our kids. And if you go to the next page, what they did really cleverly was each of the kids gets a copy of this in their Google Classroom. So Google will automatically generate a copy for every student. And the kids then can take these blocks
Caroline, are you? Oh, I didn't hear you. For a second, I lost you.
Yeah, so you can pick up a 10 block. Can you grab one? Or one, you can grab the one. And you can just drag it right into the right column.
For whatever reason, I can't manage to do that.
No worries.
I believe that I'm sure that it works. Maybe it's just my computer.
So if you scroll down a little bit more on the slide list, a little bit more to that very last, yes. So go to slide number 9. Okay, and they have a little video of a story that they want kids to listen to and then respond to that story. And so I'll show you where the kids do that and how they do that in my next slide. So could you go back, Michelle?
You mean to the list of all the different grades?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Which one would you like now?
So if you go to second grade, this is just an example of how they've coordinated reading assignments, and you'll notice it's 2 slides with their directions, what to remember, and then if you go to the second slide there, kids can actually write in that box directly in the slides and then turn that in. So they're doing the reading on the left and they're responding on the right. Can you go back to the list of grade levels? If you go into third grade, this is going to be one of my favorites. So if you click play, this is our third grade teacher. Oh, and they can't hear it. Is there a way to get volume? Is there a way that I can share my screen, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You wanted to share a different video?
Well, if I can share my screen, I can get that going because I'm afraid none of the videos are going to work.
If I stop sharing my screen, you should be able to share yours now. Go ahead.
Okay.
So click the screen button.
Click the screen button.
Underneath your webcam.
Yep.
If you click that, you can start to share.
I don't see it.
All right. Well, then just for now, we're going to just have to keep doing it this way. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, here. Okay, go ahead. Try it now. Now we see your screen, so go ahead.
Okay. You can see my screen?
Yep.
Yay. Okay. So in our third grade,
good morning, boys and girls, and happy Monday.
Can you hear?
Today is Mathematician Monday.
Yes, except that you have something in front. Oh, yeah, we can see it. Yep.
Welcome back to another week of distance learning. This week is a short week. We only have 4 days together, and Friday you will be off, and all of next week you will be off for your spring vacation. So let's work really hard this week because, like I said, we only have 4 days together. So I'm giving you a journal entry this morning.
Caroline, I can't see the screen. I can't see it on my end.
You can't
I
see
can
it?
hear it, but I can't see it.
Okay.
So it's behind your message that says about the webinar. So you have to put that behind. We can see that. You want me to just to do it here because we're almost like getting to the time to switch.
Sure.
All right. All right. What would you like to show right now?
What I'd like to show right now is if we can go back to the slides and go to the next slide. I don't know if videos are going to work. Because what I'd really like to show is some of the flip grid of our students interacting. I don't know if you want to try to hit the kindergarten. Yeah, it wants me to log in. I'm not gonna let you do it. It wants me to be in control. So that's really sad. On the written work, you can see under kindergarten, if you want to click that. Yeah, that's gonna work for you either. It's all connected to me. So you can try the narrative for the 3rd grade. That might work.
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, so I'm not going to be able to show you any of our student work.
So when you do when we have the presentation with the links in it, will anyone be able to open these?
Not the way that you've done it. But
no, I know that. I know not the way I've done it. I meant like, since you need permission to get into some of these.
No, they actually should be. If they go to our professional learning website in Naugatuck, all of that is open and available, and a lot of these videos are there. The only thing that's not there are the flip grids, because we had to get special permission from our parents to allow you to look at our children's flip grid responses and interaction.
Got it. Okay. So this is a good learning experience for me on distance learning, that you should check that if presenters are going to use videos that are embedded in their links, make sure they work. So we will make sure for everyone on the call that we're going to get you the links to everything so that you'll be able to click on things, but you can also access the information, as Caroline said, if you go to the Naugatuck website for professional learning.
Right. I mean, and if anyone is really interested in seeing Flipgrid, you know, I'm happy to give them a little virtual tour of our district.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So we can go to here. I think you had some more. Are these more videos that you had?
No, these are what some of our special areas have done. So the middle school art one is really interesting in how they've coordinated the art learning for all of the middle school students. So if you click down into the second slide, you'll see the directions for kids about what they'll do on the day that they would normally have art, and the art critique that would happen on Friday, They have the rubric posted there. And if you go to slide 4, they start with some resources for you. And then if you scroll up, go to the next slide. Right. They guide kids through turning in assignments, making sure that all the information is housed in the same place. And if you click on slide 4, they give kids, or I'm sorry, slide 6, sorry. You'll see too that they have the challenges and where they can go to meet those challenges. So if you go to the following slide, slide 7, kids can go and do some of this online art all on their own. So they would create, they're going to create a little Google presentation, and then they're going to put all of the art that they create digitally in that presentation for their teachers. So our special areas are also doing really well in getting to this challenge. We run a guitar class in our high school, and the teacher's doing daily videos to teach kids about playing the guitar, and they have their instruments at home. So
Thank you, Caroline. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody. As I mentioned, we'll make sure we get everybody the links and to all the great information that we have shared from Naugatuck. Now I'm just going to get this set up for our next presenter. Great. All right, Steve, thank you. You ready to take over?
I'm ready.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And Caroline, I know you had technical issues there, but there's a lot of information and a wealth of resources for everyone to access. So I look forward to going to the website and looking at all that great material. I know you put a lot of work into that. So congratulations to Naugatuck on a great team effort. It looks like tremendous work. So we were asked, I'm really proud of our district and the teamwork that's led us to what I feel has been a successful and really quick implementation of distance learning plans. But we were asked to specifically mention some of the secondary level activities that we've, or I should say, implementation plans that we've enacted over the last several weeks. So that's what I'm here to talk to you with my team of a panel today. I have, just want to introduce my team before we begin. I have my assistant superintendent, Mr. David Lewandowski, who will speak next. And I have our director of IT, Kevin Ross, who's been instrumental and really critical to the foundation of all this working so well and to our continued success. Our high school principal, Mr. Carl Johnson, tremendous principal, doing an amazing job, and he'll share a lot of the really cool things he's doing to keep connected with kids and keep the school connected with kids and the staff. Our director of athletics, Chris Farrell, again, just sharing that positive, motivational, inspirational, we're all in this together message, and he'll share some things about that later. And then we have our middle school principal, Mr. Matthew Guarino, tremendous longtime principal who's loved by everyone in his school and the district, of course, and just doing some amazing things at our middle school level, as well as Todd Helming, who's one of our teachers, teachers of the fine arts and chorus, and he has a gift with media and presentation, and he's also doing his administrative, he did his administrative internship at the middle school, so really putting a lot of those leadership skills into play. So together we'll share some of the work that we're doing in Plainville, kind of a quick district level, and then we'll really get into the high school and middle school, but also glimpses of our technology. So just to give you a little background about Plainville really quickly, we have 2,356 students, grades pre-K through 12. We do have a district-wide pre-K program. We have a small tiered fee for preschool that we're trying to work through with the state and removing that, but we have a robust pre-K program through grade 12. Our demographics are about 70% white, almost 20% Hispanic, and about 7% Black. We have 120 students. We're at the largest one of the largest participation rates with open choice. We have been for many years. We're big advocates and enjoy our involvement with the open choice program, and it's been tremendous. Our special education is about 14% of the population, which is we're always looking to reduce in any way we can and meet the needs of all of our kids. Our EL population has grown. You know, we're planning for a district-wide cultural celebration and fair that was going to take place this month, and looking at the heritage of our families, we had 38 countries of origin, which I thought was pretty amazing for a town our size, which is pretty small. 167 students who are classified as EL, which is 7%. And then we have a free and reduced lunch about 40%. It varies from school to school. Believe it or not, in our small town, we have some variances in different parts of town. 5 schools, 3 elementary, a middle and a high school. And then we have 238 certified staff, 191 non-certified staff, and we're somewhere in the bottom, close to the bottom third, bottom 40% of towns for per pupil expenditure. I just want to say some key factors to what I consider to be a successful implementation have been our outstanding district staff, all the way from central office team down through our principals have been amazing, and our instructional resource teachers, our instructional leaders, and our teachers, and then all of our support staff, and you'll hear more about that later. Just a great staff. I'm really fortunate. Our technology has been, you know, I would say second to none, and our support team is incredible. So, you know, hats off to Kevin Ross. He's gotten a lot of kudos and compliments lately for his vision for our regular learning, and now distance learning has become critical. So he'll tell you about that later. And then our district-wide ruler implementation and the SEL supports have really been a foundation for taking care of one another and taking care of children. This year, our focus through Yale's ruler program was really taking care of ourselves and learn how to regulate emotion and be the best version of ourselves every day. And we're planning on rolling it out with kids next year, but we've really implemented those skills and in a big way through distance learning. So I'm proud of that work. If you go to the next slide, Kevin. So our initial planning phase, you know, when we had that call from you know, I believe it was the commissioner or the governor on March 3rd, just telling us that closure was imminent. And then again on I believe it was Monday the 8th, you know, we rallied really quickly, set up an emergency administrative team meeting for a few hours and really laid out an outline of what our plans would be for the district and who was going to do what, and really articulated that pretty clearly with a clear plan. And then everybody just jumped into action. It was pretty incredible, to be honest. We took a PLC day that was meant to happen the next day for other purposes and repurposed that. Our common planning time at the high school level became all focused on getting ready for an imminent closure of school. And I can't say enough about our team across the district and their preparations. Communication was critical, and you'll hear a lot about that today. Initially ongoing from me, but also from all of our principals and all of our, you know, our staff to the kids. Communication when you're in kind of a crisis is really key. So being clear, being transparent, and frequent and early communication was critical, I think, and had a lot of positive response about that. The sense of urgency and teamwork, we applied for the waiver on a Friday the 13th, ironically, and it was granted on the Monday morning. And, you know, this was when the waiver was still required. And then, you know, with all the executive orders, things have continually changed. We've had to be responsive to that. But we really rallied around that idea of not missing a day of instruction. And we jumped into March 16th ready to go. Kind of like Naugatuck had a 3-week plan. We had a 2-week plan out of the gates, and it was a very strong plan. And I was really proud of the work that we did with almost no time to prepare. Kevin, could you take me to the next slide? So as I had mentioned, the technology infrastructure, as well as, you know, and that's not just having all kids have a device, which we've had a great one-to-one program, not through my vision, but through the vision of prior superintendents, Jeff Kitching, and then Dr. Brummett was with the town. We've always had this vision that's carried through since I was a high school principal years ago. And it's continued to build, and that's due to the work of the whole team, but really Kevin Ross, who you're gonna hear from in a minute. But our teachers all have laptops, and most of our paras and tutors have Chromebooks or access to Chromebooks and laptops that they could use to support kids. We have a very skilled technology staff for the size of our district. We're lucky to have the number and the quality that we have. So it's all been critical. Planning shifts were made. We took, as I said, PLCs, and I had actually created another emergency PLC day the following week, which I think was meant to be on the 17th or 18th, but we ended up closing on the 16th. So there ended up being quite a bit of work outside of school and on the weekends to prepare for that first day off on the 16th, or distance day, not a day off. And then I would say that, again, with technology being foundational to the rollout success, the PLC process that we've developed, and our director of curriculum instruction, Rosa Perez, who's been behind the scenes and vital in all this work too, with our learning targets and our curriculum being really solid throughout the district. Our special ed director, Vicki Trzynski, and Leanne Gemeindl, supervisor, really working hard behind the scenes. A lot of people involved in this, but the PLCs have been a foundation to really making sure that we're all on the same page across the district, meeting regularly, collaborating, sharing, and working together. So that was foundational. Kevin, could you take the next slide, please? David, you want to take over from here?
Sure. All right, thanks, Steve. So basically, over the next 3 slides, I'll take a few minutes to briefly talk about the strategic moves we put in place prior to the shutdown to best support our distance learning efforts. So the first move was to develop general expectations for staff. I emphasized the word general as we wanted to ensure consistency, but we also knew that time, instruction, and support looked different across the different grade bands. So we did allow our administrative teams to construct more specific guidelines that expanded the district non-negotiables. So our general guidelines covered items such as lesson planning, communication, and accessibility. But our school teams added in more specific guidelines for each of those. We also, from the beginning of this process, directed our teams to include a targeted focus on our most at-risk students. We understood that this move to remote learning would be difficult for everyone, but would negatively impact our at-risk students the most if we didn't have clear plans to address their needs. Next, we focused on only the instructional technology our students and staff were already comfortable using. And you heard Caroline from Naugatuck talk about this as well. I'm sure at this point, every one of the listeners has been bombarded with information from all the companies offering free products and services. But we stayed away from those as we didn't want to overcomplicate an already increasingly stressful and complicated transition. So this has helped us to maintain an uninterrupted level of teaching and learning across the district. Next slide, Kat. So we also realized that we were going to need a system of monitoring in place to ensure consistency across all grade levels and departments, as well as to better support the needs of our staff, students, and families. So as Steve talked about, our PLC structure served this purpose. This allowed us to maintain our teacher, administrator, and central office meetings in order to collaborate, plan, and also document our work. We used our PLC meetings right at the beginning for district planning prior to the shutdown, but then our teams continued to meet once a week or multiple times a week since then, and haven't missed a beat with those meetings, and they've become critical to what we've been doing in the district. Next slide, Kat. So finally, with the influx of all the new information daily regarding the pandemic and also our planning as a district, it was imperative to create a repository for all that information. So we dedicated areas on our website for all the planning and communication for distance learning, as well as student, staff, and community safety. We also created sections to help with the social and emotional health of our school community. One of the sections is called Stay Connected, and it houses staff and student videos, pictures, and messages that allow all of us to stay connected with one another and to feel less isolated as a school community. As a district, we feel one of the most important factors for success in distance learning is to maintain a personal connection with our students and families. And you'll hear more examples of this in the middle and high school slides that follow. Next, Kevin Ross, our technology director, will talk about our district technology supports and resources.
Thanks for having me. I'm Kevin Ross, the Director of Technology for Plainville Schools. I'm going to be brief to try to move this along, but some of the things in place that I think that really helped Plainville Schools just continue learning from the get-go was their comfort level with their equipment that they're using day to day, from students to staff. So we have one-to-one, as you heard, grades 6 through 12 with take-home. All teachers have laptops. Many teachers have document cameras that we told them to take home. 60% of our paras and tutors have Chromebooks. One of the big things is our district help desk. We are a centralized support system. We work out of one location. Our staff drive out to other schools if need be, but we have remote access, and we extended that remote access to home so that we had the ability to access all their devices at home. One of the tools that we have in place is a product called FileWave, which allows us to push software out and any updates or anything we needed to even while they're at their house. That's been key for like when someone needed Zoom. We pushed that out to everyone so we didn't have to worry about people needing to install the Zoom app. If you've been through that, it can be a little confusing if you haven't done that very often. One of the other things we have is a few years ago, we replaced our phone system with a VoIP phone system that allows it to be more mobile. Our staff are able to call our help desk and parents using their cell phones, but it looks like they're calling from the school. And it's our normal school extensions. That's been very helpful for reaching out to parents as well. Next, Google Classroom is already tied to PowerSchool. That was a product we use called Little Sis, and it allows us to sync our classes daily from PowerSchool to Google Classroom, so their rosters are up to date and our staff doesn't have to create the Google Classrooms. We also have GoGuardian filtering in place for all of the Chromebooks that are home, so we're able to just monitor their usage and make sure that not doing anything inappropriate. It also has the ability to monitor some at-risk things, at-risk behavior, and we've used that in the past as well, which has been very helpful. So that's what we had, and so what we added, we did extend our 3 through 5 is one-to-one as well, but they aren't take home. We let them take the devices home, and we only were able to do about 300 of those devices because we didn't have all the chargers left because we have charging carts. So in the future, we will have enough to go home. We extended the rest of the office professionals. We set them up with laptops and access to the phone system so that they could answer calls from their house, access any of this financial systems or any other systems they needed to from their home using the school issued laptop. Next, we handed out Chromebooks to all support staff that needed devices to help support students, meaning paras and other tutors that are working one-on-one with students via either Google Meet or other ways. We integrated Chromebook drop-off and repair basically with our food service. We have a lunch service from 11 to 12 every day. Parents, if they schedule it, will have a Chromebook waiting for them. The same people wearing the PPE can exchange the Chromebooks and give them a loaner so that they can continue their learning. This is how we also have been handing out devices to paras and other people as well. That's after we did the 300 earlier from the schools. We opened our help desk to support students and parents at home. We added remote access into the Chromebooks as well with the Chrome Remote Desktop application, and now we can support students. Unfortunately, most of the problems we have with Chromebooks is there's a mechanical issue, so they need to be replaced. Next, we added our teachers into the phone system. They were able to use it on their cell phones and laptops to make calls, especially our special ed teachers reaching out to students and parents to support the continual learning. As many of you have seen, we've created many support videos and trying to give ideas for staff. And then we've centralized many of those pieces on our Google Drive for staff to have in one central location.
All right, next I'll introduce Mr. Macquarino, the principal of the middle school, and he'll be helped along by Todd Hellman, one of our teachers in the middle school, in the next portion of our presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting us and having us. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about were district-wide initiatives. So I'm not going to go through necessarily every one of our bullets here because many of these things have been alluded to by the superintendent, assistant superintendent, or curriculum director. But one of the things that made the transition for us at the middle school to distance learning on day one so smooth was the technology that you've been hearing about. The teachers were very familiar with the technology. They knew the platforms and delivery systems that we would be using for distance learning very well, and that helped to make as seamless and as quick a transition to a distance learning mode as possible. But a couple of other things that I think have really helped our teaching staff here at the middle school get us ready for this is we are in the second year of transitioning to standards-based grading. So we've spent a lot of time over the last 3 years focusing on power standards and essential learning. So getting teachers in that mindset of what are those key areas that they really need for students to learn and not get bogged down in the minutia of just delivering a 45-minute lesson every day, but really thinking about to move learning forward, what are those power standards and essential learning that's necessary. So next year we'll be completing our transition. We went up 6th, 7th, and 8th to standards-based grading with the 8th grade. So that was a big help. The other thing is, in Plainville, we have a long-established distributive leadership approach. And I think particularly something that I've worked on for the last 13 years at the middle school. So that really lent itself to teachers being up and ready to go on day one. Faculty did not hesitate to begin distance learning as they saw fit. They were used to and ready to come up with ideas and not feel threatened by taking the risk to be trying new things. And that really kind of set the stage. No one said, I'm waiting until somebody tells me what to do. They were on it right from the beginning. Kevin, if you could give me the next slide. So we did start right off the bat on March the 16th, that first day of distance learning. And, one of the things that we had to find out was how that was going to work. So over the next couple of weeks, we were discovering by staying in touch and meeting regularly with each other, some of the areas that we needed to kind of refine. So I'm going right to the last bullet there. We came up with some support videos that were created for teachers, and I invited Todd Helming, one of our teachers at the middle school, to give that teaching perspective, but also because he did a lot to help create these videos for teachers, because it's one thing to be using Google Classroom in the classroom with the kids right in front of you, and it's another thing when they're not there, and having to know how to explain to them an issue they might be having, and using the lessons or accessing the lessons from a distance was a little bit trickier than having them right there in the classroom. So teachers did some experimenting that first couple of weeks, different lesson types, delivery style, how to maintain that regular communication with parents and students. So there was some variation, which we had to kind of channel a little bit after the first couple of weeks, but I think it was worth it to have the kids working from day one from distance learning. They hadn't fallen out of the habit of working every day. Give me the next one, Kev. So as I mentioned earlier, we came up with some video tutorials for aligning Google Classroom practices, so teachers were using them consistently. There's a link that will be part of this presentation that you can access if you're curious. The other thing that we continued to do was we continued our PLC, our department, and our team meeting schedules via Google Meet. In fact, we are meeting more often now as professional learning groups. So the teachers are doing a lot of that, making sure that they're aligning how they use technology and adjusting their curriculum together. And so that's been an important part of what we've been doing all along. About 2 weeks in, special thanks to our special education and pupil personnel folks who helped our non-certified staff get trained in Google Meet and Classroom. Because within about 2 weeks, we had our paras and tutors up online as well at the middle school and the other school, working with small groups of students directly every day. And in this week, we've even added our building subs. So we're very pleased with that. So as we've discovered those students who maybe need a little bit extra work beyond those kids who may have a 504 or a special ed plan, we've been assigning specific staff members to work one-on-one or in small groups with those students. I'm going to let Todd Helming, our music teacher extraordinaire, take over for a little while. But I'll stay here in case you have any questions for me, Todd.
So for what we realized pretty quickly was that parents needed to get on board with Google Classroom to support their students. So we actually created some very specific videos for parents and students to know what to do from home. And this link will be available to you. I'd recommend going and checking it out. A few other districts are already using some of these videos to help their families get on board. Social emotional learning is a large part of what we do at the middle school. And what we decided to do is try to continue our school-wide efforts that were already implemented and add to that. So for example, we have a video broadcast that goes up every day. And in addition to our normal video broadcast, we added a lot of student work and a lot of student elements to incorporate their voice and their message in those daily announcements. And also created some school-wide activities like scavenger hunts, getting them engaged in that school community, bringing them together. Kevin, you can go ahead to the next slide. And so for family supports, we continue to support our at-risk students, like Matt had mentioned, working to looking at the data for what students were completing work and not, and come up with systems in order to allow them to get support from administration. And then most importantly, these re-engagement strategies. Once we found students that needed extra help and support, we came up with plans for work forgiveness and work resets. So students had fresh starts, and that was important so students didn't fall too far behind. We eliminated late penalties, reduced student class loads and workloads, and really emphasized that positive communication and praise when even a single assignment was completed. And that's really helped bring students on board and re-engage them in the learning process. Kevin, you can go ahead to the next slide. So we found, I'm just going to summarize this real quickly here. We found that we needed to shift instruction a little bit. And jumping down to the last bullet, most important points are work less, think more. So not filling students' life with busy work, but how do we get them to do less work, but really engage their minds in thinking about the subject? Working with teachers to release control to students, and chunking tasks. And that means shifting to an extended timeline rather than having assignments due the same day they're assigned. Give students multiple days to work on those projects, and that allows them to be more flexible with their home life and home schedule. For example, maybe by week, not by day, for due dates on assignments. All right, Kevin, go ahead to the next slide. And finally, from the middle school, these are the challenges we face, especially the SEL component has been a large conversation we've been having. We found ways to engage things at a building and school level, but working in the classroom. So much of what we do on a daily basis is soft skill teaching, and we don't have that capacity online. So we're looking for, and we don't have the answers yet, about how to engage students in the classroom with the teachers. We started some weekly homeroom check-ins. So there's a lot of one-on-one contact and small group contact with teachers, but we're still looking to improve that SEL contact and connection that students have and learn from teachers in this online environment. And that's about all we have. Anything else, Matt?
No, thanks, Todd. Great.
No problem.
Thank you, Matt and Todd. I appreciate it. You've done a great job at the middle school with your entire team, so I appreciate all you've done, and I know you'll continue to learn and evolve. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Carl Johnson, the principal of Plainville High School, along with Chris Farrell, director of athletics, who will share what the high school's journey has been like.
How's
Thank you,
everyone
Steve.
doing today? Thank you for having us on, and thank you, Steve. So we're going to talk quickly just about some stuff, and then we'll get into some of the connectedness we've tried to do with our students. So when we found out, as all of you did, that we were headed towards a closure, as kind of been mentioned, we leveraged our CPTs to start planning for what we could do. And our original plan was basically supplemental work at that point, but then very quickly realizing that it was going to transition to remote learning. As has been mentioned, we talked a lot about over communication. I don't think I'll ever forget that Friday, March 13th. We were doing PA announcements. We were sending out remind text messages. We were tweeting out information. We were sending emails. And I put in there, this is the most important thing you need to do now. We tried to be very clear with students and families about what they needed to take home to be successful for what we didn't know, how long of a break we were going to be on. As you also heard too, we really, one of, I think, the most important things for us at the high school has been focusing on what we already had and thinking about how we could repurpose it or use it in different ways instead of trying to find new systems or new technology or new programs to use. We really tried to use what we already had. We are fortunate we have some really good communication structures that have already been referred to that were great for working with our students and our teachers. And then our technology has, obviously been a huge help. I think one of the other important things, and I think if you're not doing it yet, get out there and find out what other people are doing, whether that's through getting on Twitter, other support structures. I was on a cast call this morning with other principals, which was awesome. But just finding out what other people are doing and taking that stuff and making it your own. Kevin, do you mind switching to the next slide?
So, I mean, looking at our big plan, sorry, Carl, but looking at our big plan moving forward, it was one of those tough things we had to make a decision. I mean, technology aside, I know we've spoken a lot about Kevin Ross and the amount of work that him and all of his department does, and I can't, we would be here for hours to continue to talk about how much they've done. But for those of you that don't have as many, as much access to technology as you probably like, what we really did as an admin team, the two assistant principals, Carl and myself, is we really started looking at the structure, the engagement, the routine, and the communication of all those things that we were looking at to make it as smooth a transition as possible. I think that it was very important for us to really look at the structure in how we're doing it and just reflect on that. Carl, I'll let you continue on with some of the points on that one.
Yeah, so I think when we looked at the initial 2 weeks, one of the most important things for us was starting to think about establishing a structure and a routine for not only our students, but also our teachers. And, one of the big things was that we were fortunate in the sense that our daily structure was kind of already set up a little bit for this. So we have an 8-period day, we dropped 2. So we have 6 classes that meet per day. So we took that 4-day rotation and turned it into a weekly time period for students to work. And, that's been really helpful. And, I put in there week 2. One of the things we encountered during the first week was just, kind of, as you're going to hear a lot, less is more. And students were getting inundated with work. And so we stepped back a little bit. We took one of the days, turned it into a work day on Wednesdays for student and teachers, a time for them to connect and get caught up on work. And that's been really helpful. And using that structure of our day has really been about when assignments are given, when they're collected, and just making sure that we're not trying to overwhelm students with, assignments coming in. And we've constantly tried to remind teachers that, you're teaching your one class online, but we have students who are in 8 classes. It's very easy for them to get overwhelmed quickly. We finished out that second week. We made a video of our staff members, and we went off of the State Department of Ed's We Got This, and we had about 30 staff members who contributed in a video just sharing messages to the kids, and we found that as a way to start to kind of create that connection again. Kevin, do you want to switch to the next one? I'll let Chris take over with the staff supports.
So, just looking at the staff supports, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the administration team at the high school works very closely. We try to challenge each other as much as possible, just to kind of think outside the box, come up with different ideas, brainstorm off those ideas. We really started focusing on the relationships that we had with the staff members. We really talked about the empathy and just really putting ourselves in their situation, because everyone has things going on. All of our teachers, have, children at home or animals, or they're taking care of their parents or grandparents, whoever it might be. So, we wanted to make sure that we were being empathetic to that and not putting way too much on their plate and changing so much that it would be very hard for them to do that. We also established norms, just like, the middle school did, and Naugatuck earlier was discussing that. We'd established norms, and those were communicated to all of our staff members, all of our faculty, the central office team, just so that, everyone was on the same page. And then reflection. That's a huge thing that we do on a daily basis. We are always looking at, how is this working? Can we make this better? We allow RIL team, if you see down one of the bullets, the weekly building leadership meetings. We meet with our instructional leaders once a week. It is, our instructional leader from each department. They have a huge voice in our school. They're able to communicate different things to their department that we need them to communicate. But then on top of it, they bring back a lot of information that we might need to reflect and change and do things as far as protocol. So that has been something that we've had in place, and we didn't want to change it at all. We wanted to keep it a norm because that was something that we have established, and it works very well in our school system, in our high school. So we don't want to get far away from that. And it's been some I don't want to say seamless, but it's pretty close to seamless, because we do have a great group of ILs that want nothing but the best for our school system. I'm not going to talk too much about the Chromebooks and all that stuff, but just information for all of you. The one thing that I will touch base before we go to the next slide, we came up with adding administrators to Google Classrooms. We split up the 4 of us. We each got 2 departments. This is something that's been huge. We've just been another avenue for our teachers to kind of lean on us, shoot us an email, give us a phone call. If something's not right, it allows us to get into Google Classroom. So if we do get any kind of emails from a student or a parent questioning an assignment, anything like that, we're well in the know of what's going on. We're skipping that step of, hey, why is this assignment happening? We're just trying to get ahead of any issues. And then on top of it, if there's anything that we think that is excellent, we want to highlight that to the rest of our staff, and we want our teachers to know that we are appreciating all the work they are doing. Kev, you can go ahead and go to the next slide.
I just want to mention with what Chris just said with the Google Classroom, very quickly we saw just the amazing work that our teachers were doing. And so much of our plan at the high school really just relies on trusting the professionalism of our teachers, and what a phenomenal job they do. So sorry, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. So with the student support, we can go around. I mean, everyone in the state is dealing with this right now. Our big thing as an admin team is we really wanted to make sure that we don't change the culture. We've really focused on our culture in our high school and trying to make it, a positive one. Have compassion for our students, obviously motivate them, and then, communicate as much as we possibly can through every avenue possible. One of the big things at Plainville, obviously the technology is great, but if we take away the technology, there's still other things that we gotta make sure we can give the students the Chromebooks, we can give the students Google Classroom. What is going to make them do this work? What is going to make them still feel connected? That was a big message that we really wanted to make sure that we got across. I'm not going to go through each one of these bullets, but one thing, just to kind of take out of this, the one-on-one stuff's amazing. We also were able to do office hours by period, which was great. So we had 8 periods. So we split up 3-hour blocks. So teachers, if you were a period 1 teacher, you could have, open office hours for 3 hours on Monday. Okay. And then, we separated it, and it was sent out to all of our students. It's worked out really well. And then it allows for teachers to not have to compete for time with their students one-on-one. And it allows them to do. Our English teachers are having, open office hours, just going over, writing assignments and helping critique, and they're doing it with other students. So students are doing the peer-to-peer assessment stuff, which is awesome. The other piece, Kevin, you can go ahead and go to the next thing, is, if we're in high school, what's something we're going to do if we're at home? We're going to be on our phone. We're going to be on social media as much as we can. So Kev, can you go? Okay, thank you. So, be on social media as much as you can. So we really shifted our focus I shouldn't say shift our focus, but we really put more emphasis on social media. We did some, different things to kind of get our high school students involved. Twitter has been something that has worked out really well. In the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see we did some weekly challenges and things like that to get the kids motivated. This was a participation challenge. If Carl actually stood up right now, you'd probably see his kneecaps because he's about 6'6". He's a pretty tall human being. So watching him jump in the pool and videotaping it, it got a lot of kids excited. It got parents excited. It got people understanding the message we're trying to get across of, get involved, stay involved in your schoolwork. And then, you know what? We're here for you. We're going to check in. Well, obviously with the weekly emails, we know it's tough because there's so many emails going around. So we didn't want to just send these emails out with long things. So we've started doing morning announcements with our students. So our student, Travis, who does our morning announcements on a normal basis, he goes in and videotapes it, and it just kind of another connection. Their kids are seeing another student. We're giving messages to Travis to give out to the students, which is great. The Spirit Week and weekly challenges, we've seen these all around the state. It's awesome. We were lucky enough to get some pizzas donated. So when a student wins a challenge, we're delivering pizzas right to their house. And then, we also use YouTube. There is in the slide you'll get in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to get access to a YouTube video. We came up with the message to the senior class. We thought that was very important. Our admin team said, hey, we really want to do something important for our seniors. So we went through and got every one of our staff members, our teachers, our coaches. We had, our hall monitors. We had, our office professionals. Everyone get in there, and there was different messages that we gave out. Central office team was in on that as well. And we were able to share that out and just make sure the seniors especially knew that we were here for them, that we see what they were doing, and that we got them, no matter what, that we were going to be there for them. And then senior focus groups and principal office hours, something that we're going to be starting up. Senior focus groups, we've already met with the senior class officers, the senior class advisors. We're taking as much as they're going to give us. We're trying to make sure that it is great for them. This week, we're starting principal office hours. Carl's going to start having, coffee on Monday mornings. Parents can have access to that. Friday, he's going to do that as well. They can log into Zoom or Google Meets. We use Google Meets. So if Google Meets is something that we think is going to be a better avenue, that's what we'll do. And then with teachers on Wednesdays in the afternoon, he's going to have open office hours. And it's just more of, our teachers, our parents in a separate thing, and also our students can go in and just have, type in questions, ask questions. We can answer them, go over anything that's really, unsure. But my advice to all of you is, get on our Twitter accounts. They're right there. Check out some of the stuff we're doing. We're not like the ones they're the brains behind this and inventing everything. We're just brainstorming off other ideas that everyone else is doing because we're all doing this together. So it's something that's been obviously a little bit tough on everyone, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible for our students to stay connected to Plainville High School on a daily basis. So I'm going to turn over to Carl just so he can finish the last part of our high school presentation.
Yeah, and Kevin, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. And just one thing I'll hit that Chris alluded to was by the first Wednesday, that first week, our support staff, so our school counselors, our school psychologists, our school social worker, they did an awesome job and put together resources for our students and immediately pivoted to how kids can sign up for appointments with them online. And, just a phenomenal job of trying to support students that way as well. Just to end, we just, very quickly, it's just, so much of this right now, especially with the extension to May 20th, is listening to our students, listening to our parents, listening to our teachers, reflecting on what's working, reflecting on what's not working, and then figuring out the ways to adapt so that we can move forward and continue to offer what we feel like is a great, system for our students. And so much of it is about communication, having a unified voice across departments. High schools are a special animal because you got all those different departments operating and everyone has different needs and different wants. And we've really been pushing very hard that if there's ever been a time we need to be unified in our voice to students, it's now. So that's been a big part. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll turn it back over to Steve.
Thank you very much, Carl and Chris. Really a tremendous job at the high school level. And I know it's not easy at that level. If you're not careful, students will check out. If they don't know what matters and you're watching, you care. I think those relationships and, all those steps that have been taken through social media. And Carl's a pretty modest guy, and he is about 6'6". He's a big guy, but the heart of a lion. And, just those relationships he's established. So it's just a continuation of what he's established. And Matt's the same way at the middle school, just really strong interpersonal relationships. When I saw Carl jump into it was announced by one of our assistant principals, Jennifer DiLorenzo, who was videotaping Mr. Johnson jumping into the pool fully clothed off the diving board after a weekly challenge had gone out to the kids about their participation rate, and it was the first week. So it was really impressive, just showing that commitment and how much, what steps he would go to get them motivated. I won't talk about Mr. Guarino eating worms for reading challenges in the past. Well, I guess I just did. But, we tend to, our staff goes the extra mile to really get students invested in learning. So just some reflections on the implementation as we wrap things up from Plainville. I want to say that just those district-wide partnerships and, we've done 2 teacher parades. We have our final elementary school teacher parade tomorrow. We have about, I think every staff member from each school participated, and we weren't the first, but I have to say we've done it really, it's been incredible. Carl has a big red Ford pickup truck, and he's the caboose, and I'm right in front of them. Mr. Lewandowski, our assistant who you heard from earlier, is right in front of me, and Rosa Perez, our curriculum director, is in each of the parades, and the principals are leading the way. We have the mascot, out the sunroofs, and it's really incredible. And we've had our police department has committed, 4 to 5 officers. We'll be doing it again tomorrow for Wheeler Elementary School. They're all charged up and excited, as are the families. We send out the route in advance so they know where we're going to be. And it's been a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. And I know that's elementary level, but just, the commitment and seeing your high school principal involved and with the big flags off the back of his truck, the American flag, and then the high school flag with the Blue Devil symbol, it's kind of the hit of the parade as well. So, and just all those connections. So having that personal piece, those personal connections, I think I know there are districts that do many things better than we do, and we're continuing to learn every day. But I'm really proud of what we're doing in Plainville and the personal connections and the value we take for every one of our students. We were delivering Chromebooks to Hartford to our choice students to make sure everybody had access and equity. We continue to take care of all of our students, making calls, doing wellness checks with our police department on kids who aren't responding. So a lot of different steps that have happened. Communication is key. I do send out 1, sometimes 2 messages to families. I'm known for not being short-winded or short in my writing as well. But I've had a lot of positive feedback from that, and it means a lot to me coming from our parents and our staff. All the thanks that I had from staff and families, students. I still jump into classrooms when I'm invited, and I was doing push-ups with a class I used to visit and do morning workouts with and stuff. So a 5th grade class yesterday morning, and they asked me to come back today, and I just was there for a group lesson in a story, and just keeping those connections is so important. So I'm really proud of the food service that we have in our town. They stepped in. We got the waiver approved for food service, and we started on the Tuesday of our closure, so we only missed 1 day. And they've been tremendous, the food choices. We repurposed our high school security staff. They're helping with that. They're delivering mail. Just incredible, the work that they're doing. So, some lessons learned, just making the shift from the larger lesson, breaking it down, really taking the student's perspective. You heard a lot about that from my team, and just remembering to stay connected with all of our kids. And, I think going forward, as Kevin alluded to, our IT director, and making sure that all of our students will have a device if we ever have to go back into this, which may be a possibility, we'll be even more ready. Kevin, if you could take me to the next slide. So we wanted to share some resources. I'm not going to click on them, but the first document is our timeline, kind of the trajectory that we followed in going into distance learning. And there's a lot of information there. My assistant did a tremendous job putting that together. And the district implementation guide, it's about a 10-page document with a lot of really good information there. So that's yours for, you'll see it shared in the link, and you can go on our website. We have resources for parents and anyone else to access as well. There's also, I encourage you to look at the embedded links within our presentation. You'll have access to that when it's shared with you, and it's already shared with you. But some really great things that were done. And also I wrote an op-ed for our newspapers. That's attached here at the bottom, just explaining our distance learning journey in Plainville. Kevin, can you take me to the last slide? The last slide is just our contact information. I believe it's the last slide. Yes, so I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I know everyone's busy trying to make sure you're doing the very best for your district. I value all the work everyone's doing across the state. By no means are we perfect or the exemplar. I hope you took some ideas away from us that are valuable to you and will be helpful. And any of us are accessible. I just noticed, no, that's accurate. So we have everyone on our email, and you can also go on our website if you want to speak to anyone else, but we're happy to help in any way we can and share Plainville's journey and anything we can share with you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Plainville and Naugatuck. I'm blown away by how much information, all the work that's gone into this by your staff and your teachers and your students. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. I just want to reassure the audience that I will make sure to send you links to the presentations with the embedded links. I will do that as soon as we end the webinar. I will make sure that you get an email with this information. So have no fear. So I have a couple of questions that came in through the question and answer part of the webinar. If you do have any questions, now's the time. We have a couple minutes for those. The first thing actually is our commissioner wanted to make sure to let you know that he's very appreciative that you were able to share your expertise, and he appreciates your participation and willingness to support other communities in Connecticut. So that's from Dr. Cardona. So we have a question here about can you share how you developed a strategic response to students who aren't engaging in the distance learning plan? And then there's two other parts to the question. Do you have advice about our standards-based reporting for our younger students? And how do you weave in the SEL supports into your plan? And I know like you touched on the SEL piece, but I'm not sure who wants to address that.
Carl,
I can speak quickly to, obviously we have students who are, have been disengaged with the learning. And like I kind of alluded to, we leveraged, the systems we already had in place. So very quickly we realized we could use PowerSchool log entries in a different way. So what we've done is, I think as anyone, we use our teachers as the first line. So if they find a student who they're trying to engage with who isn't completing assignments or who isn't logging in or checking stuff, they try to contact home, whether it be through email or phone. And then, if they still can't get into contact, they log it and they escalate it to the school counselors and to the administrators. And then we go further to try to, get in touch with them, and we use whatever resources we have to do, to get in touch with those students and get in touch with those families. And, the biggest thing is problem solving. So, getting in communication with them is the first step, but then figuring out what you need to do to help them and support them so that, you fix whatever problem there is as to why it's not happening.
I'll just, if I could just add to that, every level from elementary, middle, and high school, as part of their plans, they have a system of checkpoints for reaching out to students to make sure they're engaged. And like Carl said, from the teacher to leadership, the facilitators of the PLCs to the administration, to central office. We just had an administrator and central office meeting this morning where we were talking about our last efforts for our students that we haven't been able to actually contact yet. We haven't seen any engagement or any work, and there was a very limited number because of all the other steps we took, but we did have some where we just didn't have any contact with them no matter all the communication efforts we tried. And we went to actual letters and had some great stories about the feedback that came back from just those mailed letters, that now they're connected. And then the wellness checks that we're doing with our police department, our SROs, with going to houses and just checking on those students to make sure they're safe and everything's okay.
We're a ruler school, So one of the things that we did was to create a Google form that looks like a mood meter, and students check in on that every day. So that's one way our teachers can track who's at least popping into the classroom. But it's also really good information, because if we have kids who are checking in the red or the blue, they go to that school-based team, and that school-based team does a personal like wellness check or check-in with that child and their family. So that's one way that we use to reach out and connect with kids and to see who's engaging and who's not. And we also do the phone calls, the letters. We've sent police to the houses to check on kids, and actually engaged several families who who thought we wouldn't care if they were engaged, and we're very surprised at how we reached out to ensure that their engagement. And then also finding out, which families went to Texas and which families went to Florida, and still trying to maintain connections with those families, because with distance learning, it doesn't matter where you are. So bringing them in as well, no matter where they are.
Something, Caroline, you mentioned earlier too, was that learning is a social activity, and we're missing that social connection. So I can tell you something I've done personally in my teaching is I've actually given some assignments where students have the ability to just share stories from their life and get that out in the public and in the classroom so students can read. For example, coming back from vacation, what did they do? What kept them busy? So finding ways to engage the students in their social side and getting them communicating with each other and with the teacher. As a school, we've implemented a homeroom video chat. So this is not academic related, it's not related to classes or assignments. It's just checking in each week with your homeroom. We don't have 100% participation, but for my particular homeroom, we had about 80 or 90% participation. And the kids just had an open forum for about 20 minutes to share and say hi to each other. So getting those social connections redeveloped in new ways is a great way to reconnect the kids back into the learning on the other side.
Okay, that's pretty much what we have for the questions as follow-ups. And again, I want to thank all of you so much for attending, and also I want to thank our presenters very, very much for being able to share what they're doing in their districts with the rest of the state. Again, on behalf of the Connecticut State Department of Education, please remember that we're here to help, and please reach out to us directly if there's anything that we can do or any other supports that you need. And please, everyone, stay well, stay safe, and thanks again. Have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job, everyone.